I love it. So good morning, Steve Groom, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Vissensa. Vissensa are an IT support company and cloud tech. They also are very involved in cybersecurity at the moment, which is sort of come to the fore, certainly in our discussions about Zoom and how easy it is to infiltrate those calls. Now, Steve Groom, you are an international businessman. You have a number of years experience across the world and also into Asia, and you've brought all this lovely experience back here to the UK and are now based at the beautiful Malwood Castle, which is near Lymington, which I visited, and it's fantastic. Steve, what I'd like to do today is for us to talk about your career. Starting from Ryde High School and the experiences that you might have had there. And at the end of this, we're going to be asking you what your teachers said about you and whether that's actually been a reflection of who you have become and what they said was actually true. So I'm going to hand the stick over to you and you can tell us all about you. I will interrupt you as you go along. So just to ask questions, and it's an absolute pleasure to talk to you as always today, Steve. So over to you to hear all about your career. Thank you.
Morning, Beverley. Yeah, thank you very much. It's lovely to be invited on. Cool, blimey, I don't know how I change that and follow that. Yeah, I think. You know, my career is always been in IT. So I've been in IT since I was 18 years old, and I started as a trainee computer operator on some equipment that was about the size of a warehouse and had about as much computing power as you've got in your watch these days.
Yeah.
So that probably tells you how old I was. Okay, I didn't really know Neil Armstrong, but it was about the same sort of deal about a type of computing that got them to the moon.
You just read about it in the paper, didn't you, Steve?
Absolutely right. Yeah. Absolutely right. And I suppose, how did I get into it? I was by accident. Actually, and I think that's one of the things that I think is an interesting story to tell people, because I left school with absolutely no qualifications whatsoever. I don't think it was because I couldn't learn, but I was terrible at exams, absolutely desperate at exams, and so therefore, life chances. This is back in 1976 or somewhere like that. We were sort of starting to get a bit of a recession. I lived on the Isle of Wight, which is a beautiful place, but has absolutely no prospect of work unless you want to work in hospitality industry. And we know how much that's actually causing grief to people at this point in time.
Yeah, sure.
So I picked up my sticks and put my rucksack on my back and headed for the big smoke called London, and got myself a job with a company called Allied Suppliers, which was a company called Lipton's, if everybody remember the old Lipton's company.
Yeah.
And that was my first job. From there into just rose through the ranks from an operations perspective, and then there comes a sort of fork in the road, and that fork in the road was whether or not I wanted to be a programmer and program programs for computers, or whether or not I wanted to get into a more technical role. And in those days, I mean, today they call them system administrators. In those days, they called them systems programmers.
Yes.
Okay, and that was the operation of the operating system and all the peripherals and stuff like that in terms of making that happen. And I decided to do that. And again, that was an interesting choice, and actually one that took that technical path. But I think one thing I wanted to really mention here was that if I hadn't been doing that, the only job that was offered to me was a forklift truck driver. Which is fantastic if you're a forklift truck driver, but that's, I don't think, what Steve Groom was destined for.
Yeah.
So to all those people out there that now, again in this time, that have had their results, are feeling downflated from the fact that they didn't get what they wanted to do. there is opportunity, and it's about mindset, and you know all about that, Beverley,
yes,
in terms of all the stuff that you do. And it's about mindset and about sort of saying, what have I got in front of me? What are the pieces of the jigsaw that's still lying there, and can I do something from that? So that was really the start of my career in terms of getting into computers. And probably 6 or 8 months before I got that job, if somebody had said to me, "Why don't you get a job in computers?" I'd have gone, "What? I mean, do you not know me at all?"
Yeah, I think the thing is also, because I have education in my background as well, so I lectured for 10 years when my children were growing up, in between my 2 business careers, sandwiched in there, is that the teaching that we have now is nowhere near what we experienced when we were at school, Steve. And I think that at the end of the day, that when I meet people now that are of a certain age and they say, "Well, I didn't do very well at school," it's not that you didn't do very well at school, it's just that you didn't have the direction, and the emphasis was always on science, maths and English, wasn't it? And the thing is about that is we didn't have the structure that we now have, or the support, if that had been different, then you might have you might, and I might have done better at school. So I mean, I didn't go to university till I was like 40 something, so it doesn't really matter, does it, when you go, or what you learn. It's what you learn along the way. But it's that whole process. And yes, you are right, results come out this week, just in August, when this has been recorded, and and it is not the be all and end all of your world, because you can have as many careers as you want these days. So I know that you have stood on international stages, you have been in international conferences, you've done all that stuff from there. So I'm going to back over to you then, and let's hear about what happened after you got that fork in the road.
Yeah, so I think so got that fork in the road, as you say, and that was very much a case of taking that technical direct direction. And honestly, I had a ball. It was absolutely fabulous. I worked with IBM technology at that point in time, and was trained from an IBM perspective. And then actually I got to a point where I was working with a number of US organizations that had put their products into a company that I was working for, and I got headhunted. I mean, I suppose that's an accolade where, the people that were providing that went, actually, he's quite a good guy, could be a technical person for us. And that was the flip from working from an end user organization, pivot, I think they call it these days, to actually working from a software perspective in a role which was actually engaged with end customers. And that's another new piece of learning. So being from a support perspective in an end customer, to now actually what you're doing is you're supporting a range of end customers. Okay, that's there's a new piece of learning. There's a new experience. And I suppose, to be perfectly honest with you, that's really where that set this up for how Vissensa as an organisation operates. So from a long way back, that's a deep ingrained understanding of having to provide the very best, best piece of software, the best advice, best technical expertise to an organisation that's trying to utilise a product in the best way. And again, I had a really fantastic time doing that. But there was one thing that I realised right there and then, and that was the salespeople got paid more than technical people. And they drove around in better cars.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so one day, after being out with a lot of salespeople, and the salesperson going, "Yes, and this is a really wonderful product, and over to Steve, who's going to demonstrate it for you." I sat back and I thought, okay, this sales thing looks like it's actually pretty damn easy. I think I might have a go at that. So I went and knocked on the sales manager's door and said, "Hi, I'd like to have a go at this sales stuff. And do I get a better car?" Which I did. It was a BMW 320i, which was amazing in most times. I became a salesperson and did some training, obviously. And again, I suppose the benefit of working for, again, a US organization based in California, that allowed, they were quite a well-known brand. And so therefore they put all of their salespeople through professional sales training, so Miller Hyman training and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And so therefore I got a very, very good understanding of how that sales process worked, coming from the technical. So, I had no real sales training before that. And again, I think that also was a really, really, really good idea, because and a good strategy, because at the end of the day, it gave me a really good grounding, not only for my sales career that then started to take off, but now, I go back and sometimes I read some of that stuff from 20 years ago, because some of it is still really relevant. There's there's new concepts around it, but also the way you treat salespeople. The way that you view a salesperson, I think is really important, and again, really important in today's sales environment.
Yeah,
it is different.
It's so much more consultative, isn't it, Steve? It's like when I was talking to Chantel that works for you. She has that level of understanding of how does that look from the technical side as well. And you can actually see that in practice. And you having come from a technical background, then going into sales and sort of then into management and ultimately leadership in your own business, it gave you that real good roots, doesn't it? Like a solid tree. I'm not saying you're a tree, but a real solid roots to be able to, to grow all those branches and.
Well, I'm pretty dense, so I'm like a tree, that's for sure.
I know that's not the case, Steve.
No, so what's really interesting is that you're really right. So actually, the consultative approach, which came from a technical background, actually is one of the real strengths that I think that I have from a sales background, but also from a management background. That whole approach. Now, I suppose my big break was that I was working for a UK organisation, and I had become their sales manager, and I had grown the organisation from about 4 or 5 people to about 8 people as a sales team. And the owners of that business turned around and said, the New York business, the US operation based in New York, having a bit of a problem. Would you like to go over there and be CEO? What's the CEO do? I know it sounded a great title. Obviously, there's a load of money involved in it, so it's like something like that. And again, so
think about it for a minute.
So I put my rucksack on and off I went to New York as the CEO of this organisation, which is called Circle. And I've got to tell you, it was a blast. Only it was a complete sheep dip. But it was really, really wonderful, and I learned a huge amount. I learned a huge amount about people. There's actually, New Yorkers are pretty hard-nosed people. So, this rookie out of London came out of there, and he basically he got wiped on the floor a few times. That's for sure in those early months by some fairly creative New Yorkers. But it was just an eclectic atmosphere, working in Manhattan. Office was on Fifth Avenue. My God, it was a dream come true, and I suppose that set me up for, I'm being placed in that, being dropped into that really, with not a lot of support, just sort of almost like go fix it, Steve. It taught me an awful lot of life skills about how to deal with people. I mean, there were some people there that were clearly completely cruising. Said, the owners are over there in the UK. It doesn't really matter what we do as long as we do a little bit of a number. So there was a bit of a clean out. There was a bit of a new team. Didn't completely whitewash the whole place. That's not the approach. But you learn a huge amount about that, and then. And then moving on from there, obviously having worked in New York, gave me the opportunity to go and work over in San Francisco, again with another organisation, which was a change management organisation. That was quite interesting in terms of change management. And understanding another part of the jigsaw. So it's like troubleshooting and culture and all those things, isn't it? You'll actually learn as you went along, really. I mean, what a great opportunity. I mean, people come and ask me, can you come in and sort this out, with Beverley Poole Consultancy head on. But when you've actually, only because I've done that obviously myself in 2 companies like yourself that you've worked in, but that whole change management picture, I think once you've been through that, it holds you in good stead, doesn't it, for the rest of your career, really? It sort of gives you that
culture shifts and how that all works.
Yeah, and you know, and that was a wonderful, you know, that was a wonderful experience until such times as the company was sold and everybody was made redundant. You know, hey, this whole organisation took the IP. Everybody pretty much was made redundant.
Wow.
And that was just a case of actually sitting down and almost looking around and went, wow, whoa, hang on a minute, what happened there?
Yeah.
But again, it's pick yourself up, dust yourself off.
Yeah.
And I had a great opportunity to work for an organisation called Captiva. They were a NASDAQ quoted company in San Diego. And I was there as a sales and marketing director for EMEA. So that was working in a NASDAQ environment, doing everything down to South Africa. Again, really interesting managing a European group of individuals, obviously. Again, a completely different skill, a completely different skill from reporting. And I remember I'll tell us a very quick story, because again, this is one of those things where you sort of try to instill that in people, and particularly in instilling it into the people here in Vissensa, in terms of, you know, each and every one of you, it doesn't matter where you work in an organization, each and every one of you makes a difference.
Yes.
Yeah. Your input to that business, your input, the way that you help an organization, the way that you help a customer, okay, it doesn't matter what you do in that organization, it all counts.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's so many companies lose that, you know, yes, I'm the manager and I know how to do that. No, every single person in the jigsaw puzzle. And I remember being on a call. I remember being on a call with a guy called Bish Reynolds. He was the CEO of Captiva at the time. And, you know, there was the guys from Australia and the guys from Asia, and there was me from Europe on the call. And we were basically on a cadence call, as they do, usually pretty late at night, because they're doing them at 10 o'clock in the morning and we're doing them at 8 o'clock at night. My wife's going, how long are you going to be on that blooming call for? Anyway, but basically, you know, you're going to your sales team and going, okay, you know, what's the numbers? What are you going to bring in? You know, and this whole idea of actually the relationship building with customers, to, you know, as we know in sales, in the sales term, an upside. So it's like, look, you know, there's your forecast. The forecast is really important. Now, this might sound a little bit hard-nosed in terms of any sort of potential customer that's listening to this, but, you know, for an organization, for a sales organization, sales-led organization to be successful, they have to have control over the number. They have to, you know, and it's a process, and you know, it's a process. And so therefore, at the end of the day, you need to be sure of what the forecast looks like and who you think you're going to sell to and why you think you're going to sell to them, and all those good things. And then should somebody go, you know, I really can't do that this month, you need to have, you know, you need to have somebody in the back pocket to go, look, okay, can we do a deal? Can we make something happen? Whatever it might be, you know, your upside, as they call it in sales. And when you don't make your sales number, you know, in a lot of cases, and a lot of failing organizations go, oh, we didn't make our sales number, maybe we'll make it next month. But, you know, Bish Reynolds told me this story, and he said this, he said, look, he said, if one of your salespeople misses his number and you roll that up, and that means that you miss your number, it means that actually I miss my number. And I have to report to the stock market, and I have to go and talk to a load of analysts on Wall Street, and they're going to turn around and they're going to say, hey, Bish, you know, last quarter you said you were going to be, you know, do $2.7 million worth of revenue, and you only did 2.5. So is the business going down, or if you haven't got a handle on your people? He had as much of a problem as
it puts chinks in the confidence, doesn't it, Steve? It really puts the chinks in the confidence of your.
Absolutely right, absolutely right. So you know, at the end of the day, it makes a difference. And yeah, that was a huge learning for me. That was a huge learning experience, which was everybody makes a difference.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
But you know, at the end of the day, something happened within Captiva. I became unwell. I had a quite a serious condition, and actually as a cutthroat organization, you know, they turned around and said, you know, does that mean that you're not going to be on the flight next week? And it's like, that means that I'm really not going to be on a flight next week. Bye-bye. And I decided at that point, I decided to do, I was never going to work for anybody again. And I built a company. I think I told you the name of this company sometime before when we were talking, but I thought, let me think of a name. And I came up with the name of New Forcer. I wish I still had that company, by the way. I don't, but New Forcer standard for never working for someone again. Everybody said, New Forcer, what the hell's that got to do with that? Right, I don't know, it's just a really clever name, but that's what it meant, never working for someone again. And I haven't. And I've, as I say, I've, with all of that sales experience and all that technical experience, gives me, I think, a really great insight to go and talk to an organisation, not only about what the problem might be, but actually what the solution might be. I think that's one of the strengths that I have, and it's one of the strengths that I try to instill in everybody that we have here at Vissensa and people that I've met along the way. Anyway.
And I know that you're very into partnership building and collaboration and all those things with your business. And, you know, and because you're bringing, I think you called it enterprise class computing to the marketplace, that, you know, that space needs that type of support, doesn't it? Because if you can offer a layered approach to your clients, you know, and I know that, you know, that you're looking at a few projects at the moment that we've been discussing, but it's really important to have that whole consultative approach that you can take into businesses to help them to grow as well, because you've got that experience, you know. And until today, people didn't know all about Bish and, you know, and never working for anybody else again and all those sorts of things. But it's what makes your company stand out from the crowd as far as I'm concerned, you know, is it says what it does on the tin, doesn't it? It's
thank you for that. That's, you know, and I really appreciate it that you recognise that, because at the end of the day, so yeah, that consultative approach really worked in terms of when I then started to look about what I could do. I thought, okay, let's think about the problems that these organisations have had that I've worked for. And one of those is obviously building partnerships, sharp partnerships from the distributorship perspective and things like that. And so what I did is I started to then basically consult with those organisations. I go to an organisation and say, okay, where in the market do you want to be? Or do you have a new product that needs to be into a particular market? And then effectively, if you do that, then and if I can help you in that environment, then effectively what can happen is I can probably take you to that market cheaper, and I can probably get you into that market quicker. And that's what I did. I did it in a real consultative approach, and that's what took me to Southeast Asia. I realised that there are a huge amount of organisations, both UK and US, looked at this growing industry in Southeast Asia. You know, it was starting to really grow. It was before China had really gone off with a lot of stuff. And basically, the cost of getting somebody to Southeast Asia to wander around to try and find distributors was really too expensive. And so therefore, what they wanted to do is they needed a footprint on the ground. And again, you know, this was this sort of, okay, maybe this is this sort of entrepreneurial sort of bit of brain that I've got. It's not very big, but it is there somewhere. is that effectively, instead of actually trying to get one person, why not go and find 4 different facing organisations and say to them, this is on a non-compete basis, but if I can get you to Southeast Asia for 25% of the cost, would that interest you? And of course, that absolutely interested them. And so therefore, that took 4 organisations into Southeast Asia. Okay, building a distributorship, it was blimmin' hard work. I got to tell you, I spent an awful lot of time on a paraffin budgie, and not so much time at home, which was hard. And then when you were home, you were doing a little bit of work, but a little bit of downtime. But then, bosh, you'd be straight back to Southeast Asia, and it'd be meeting. It'd really be hard. Those guys are they're machines over there. But a fabulous culture to work with. I absolutely adore working in Southeast Asia, because those guys, if they say they're going to do it,
they'll do what they say.
But if you say you're going to do it, you've got to do it. Okay. It's a two-way street. And again, big learning lesson, really big learning lesson of, there's a real aha moment of, okay, this is what, talk about quality, stand by your principles, be ethical, okay, and you'll have a great time. If you just try and swing it and wing it, then actually, do you know what, you'll crash and burn. And that again was another part of the Steve Groom learning experience, a point that came to the opportunity to build Vissensa, then actually all of those threads started to come together, and I had a very clear understanding of where we wanted to take Vissensa as an organisation. It had to be, the quality had to be right up there. It had to be ethical. We really, really needed to be on point in what we were doing, because in fact, even then, from a colo space and a managed service space, which was, 2008, we were in a recession. You needed to be on top of your game, but with the ascendancy of cloud market and stuff like that, you have to be even further on top of your game. And I think that investment we've made in people as well as technology means that actually what we have been able to do here at Vissensa is we've been able to stay absolutely on the front foot, not only on emerging technology, but also in terms of how you can bring emerging technology with quality rather than just flogging it to a market, and particularly to the market here in the south, because you mentioned that thing about enterprise class. We have some really big enterprise class customers that we support around the world. But, again, as we talk, Beverley, the issue is that there's an awful lot of SMBs, and you talked about cybersecurity, for example, is that, there's a huge amount of SMBs who just either don't think they can afford it or don't think it's relevant.
Yes,
and
that's right.
It's more relevant now to SMBs than it is to those enterprise class people.
But it's across the industries, isn't it? Even with marketing companies, their UX, their user experience, people go, oh, I don't need that at the moment. But in actual fact, if you've got that analytics and the information, then it works for them as well. And like you, with your business, I've seen firsthand, because I've been into your office, the importance that you pay on the employee relationships that you have, the development of your staff. It's ingrained in everything you do. And the thing is, Steve, you're knocking yourself there, but you have got a massive amount of business, IT, structure, corporate, international business experience that you can bring to your clients. And I know it doesn't matter whether they're a small company for you or they're an international company, they're all as important as each other. And that's the thread that I see, is that importance that of customer service that you bring to your clients. So, that's very obvious with you. So, tell me about then the long-term partnerships that you sort of build with companies. I know we've talked about this before, equipment and expertise, because it sort of rolls on from there really with Vissensa. So how does that work?
Okay, so I think if we go back and look at what I think is a real key building block, and for Vissensa is, we're not transactional. Okay, we look for long-term partnerships. Organizations that do business with Vissensa, they do business with Vissensa because they get the value, they get the ad that we have. They either experience it at first hand really early on, okay, or over a longer period of time. They recognize this. People say trusted partner. That's a very overused word, to be perfectly honest with you. But effectively, that somebody that is absolutely standing at their shoulder at every point and cares about what they do. The information that we have as an organisation on our customers means that even somebody that hasn't talked to us for 4 months may have an issue. At that point in time, when they say we need help, we're not scrabbling around. We understand how the pieces fit together, and I suppose that comes out of the fact that, again, we invest in really great people, and we teach and we bring them on, and we actually promote them into the organisation, because this is a long term gig for us all. And I think that is one of those standout things that if you look at Vissensa against a lot of other organisations, you would be able to identify that as an investor or as a client, or as a potential client. You would see that, I think, relatively quickly.
And they're all they're all very committed to you as well, aren't they, Steve? You know, that's obvious as well. You know,
and me to them,
Right.
You know, it's a two-way
Goes up.
street, Beverley, isn't it? It's a two-way street. Okay. As I said before, it doesn't matter where you are in the organisation. You have a piece of the, you know, you can make a difference.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the key things. I think the other thing is that you talk about the partnerships. Is that, again, that's what I look for when I look for partnerships. And I know what we're going to be doing something in over the next few months with with the new stuff that you're bringing out from an academy. And for me, you know, that immediately I looked at that and thought, okay, look, there's a great opportunity for us to do something together. And I know we're both excited, and the team's really excited about that. But, you know, that's exactly the sort of thing that I look for in other partnerships. I'm saddened, to be perfectly, is that you see some of these really larger organisations that say, I want a partnership, and then what they do is they give you this partnership agreement, and then they just go, really, you know, 25 years ago we were doing, hang on, don't tell me you've got a bronze, silver and gold model, have you? Duh. Yeah, hi, it's 2020, just, and it's really a shame, because actually some of those partnerships could be really instrumental for everybody in the party. And in fact, actually, you have to have an arm's length environment with those people, because actually it doesn't fit the model. And I think in any partnership that you go into, it has to be a two-way street. If both organisations understand the business model that each other has, then actually what you can do is you can fit how you work together into that business model, so that actually it's a win-win for both. It's when it's lopsided. The very worst thing that can happen, and you see this with a huge amount of IT organisations, is that they put all their chips in with a couple of with a couple of big vendors or whatever it might be, and then actually what they have to do is they have to play the tune of that big vendor, even though that might not be the thing that the client needs. Because actually I need the margin out of that, and so therefore all of a sudden the relationship with the client has turned into being, actually, you're just selling. It's that transactional versus partnership again. And I think, I'm never going to change. You know, I've talked to lots of people about changing that. Fallen very much on deaf ears, I can tell you. Because I've got no weight in that market whatsoever. Shame, but actually, so partnerships are key, because they then, once you have a really good partnership in place, then what you have is you have the opportunity to talk. You have the opportunity for some dialogue, where you can actually say, look, this is the trajectory that we're going on, and you're not, this piece here of what you do isn't quite where we need it to be. Can you shift that very slightly? Because if you do that, then here's the benefit. And if you can play that message to a vendor, or you can play that message to another partner, then actually, if they can move that dial a little bit, then actually, again, you make a win-win for everybody. And when I mean everybody, I'm not just talking about the vendor and you. I'm talking about the customer, you and the vendor. Because at the end of the day, it's a triangle. We don't get customers unless we actually support them well, and they need to feel that they got the best advice rather than the best price. And that's a really hard thing. It's a difficult balancing act. We've missed business, and we've walked away from business because it hasn't felt quite right. But we stand right there, and I think that's something that, again, that we feel that we have a differentiator out there in the marketplace in terms of the way that we deal with our clients.
So you're not actually on this bottom compliance step anywhere, Steve. You're actually up here collaborating. you know, a lot of people pay lip service to that, which is what you just said, but it actually does work if you get it right and everybody puts their cards on the table up front and says what they want, rather than that, you know, flat-faced agreement that some people come out with, you know. And at the top of this is very much, you know, your experience and what you actually bring to your customers, you know, which is quite vast. So what's the emphasis for you at the moment? I know that you're very keen to let people have what they want, you know, but in terms of what you do, it's what people actually need at the moment, which is all that cybersecurity stuff that we've been talking about. So now what's the sort of movement forward for Vissensa now then, Steve? Where's it all going for you?
So, you know, again, and I think we talked about this, you know, off camera in that respect, is that, you know, 2.5, 3 years ago, if you had walked out from Castle Malwood and asked anybody, any local business around here, who Vissensa was, they wouldn't know. We were focused very much in the data center space, and on our international clients and national clients, but effectively the local area wouldn't need that. And, you know, Sam Nunn and I, my CCO and I, we sat down and we said, look, do we want to get into this local market, and what can we bring to this local market? There's no point just going, hi, we're open for business local market. And what we had already seen was that the SMBs, and if we just keep it in the context of the South, Beverley, but actually this could be countrywide, but if we keep it in the context of the South, most of those businesses, there's a lot of businesses that feel that they can't buy enterprise class stuff because it's too expensive, or it's not relevant to them, but it would be too expensive. It's too far out of their reach. And if we go back to, you know, me leaving school with nothing and what was in my reach, it's no different really. It's a mindset.
Yes, it is.
But it's also education. You know, you talk. And again, hopefully, and for the things that we're doing, the Vissensa Talks series that you've been part of, the blog stuff that we put out, the blog stuff that I write now and again, okay, is all about information. It's all about education. Okay, it's not there's no hard sell, as you know from the Vissensa Talks perspective. We don't talk about Vissensa at all. We talk about the businesses and how they're doing at this point in time. So it is all about pushing information out there that is readily and easily consumable by people to understand what we as an organization could possibly do for them, and then they can make their mind up to pick up the phone or write us an email if they want something about that. So bringing things to the local market, which are enterprise class, but in a price point which is actually usable for those particular SMEs, is an absolute push in terms of what we're doing. Okay, it doesn't have the same profit margins. It doesn't. It is technically more difficult than actually running from a large organization in the data center, because they're very, very steady state. Okay, but it's something that's actually important. Okay, it's important because there's an awful lot of organizations in the South that aren't getting great business help from an IT perspective. And as you say, lots of people are paying too much money for stuff because they've just grabbed it and think that it works, or actually there's a better way of doing it. And as you say, the cybersecurity thing is a good example, when most people think it will be okay. Okay, it's not. You really need to have, you need to have some real eyes on in that cybersecurity world. But how do people want to consume cloud? Cloud has completely changed the way that people consume it. Back when we had stuff on site, then it went into data centers. Now it's gone to the public cloud. The public cloud isn't the greatest place for everybody. There's a good thing to do in the public cloud. It's not the cheapest. Okay, yes, it is quick and easy and dirty to get in there, and off you go. You can get something running, brilliant. But actually, is there the control that you need? So it's not a silver bullet. I think a lot of people thought it was going to be a bit of a silver bullet. It's not. It has to be taken as a holistic view in terms of what do I want to do in my computing environment for my business, whether it be an enterprise or whether it be a small organization. So I think that is a big push for us, because all of those skills that we've learned for supporting large organisations, we can actually percolate down and provide services for smaller organisations, which are really outstanding. And where we have worked with organisations, 2, 3, 4 person organisations up to 50, 100, 150 people, persons organisations here in the South, is that I think every single one of those organisations would easily be able to come on your show and say, that was an absolutely brilliant decision for us to use Vissensa, which I and the team are immensely proud of, because it is one of those pivots again. It's another one of those pivots. And what are we doing now going forward? Well, actually, there's a whole bunch of things where we have looked at where the marketplace is going, looked at how people are consuming things, and what, again, particularly the SMEs need and SMBs need in terms of IT going forward. And we've got a range of things that we're right on the cusp of actually announcing out into the marketplace, which will really shake the marketplace up again. Stuff that we've been looking and developing for 6-8 months now, before COVID. And actually we powered through that while COVID has been on. We've been powering through developing these things. Again, it just allows Vissensa to be in a different space and to give people the choice to consume stuff from us any which way they want. So that sort of forward thinking that's in our strapline is something that goes on behind the scenes here all the time with some really clever people that I'm really lucky to have.
And and it's a pleasure to watch it all. We're coming towards the end of the time that we've got to talk today, because I know we can talk for hours, because there's so much more behind you. You cycle to work every day. You've got
not every day. I'm not cycling at the moment. It is way too hot.
When it's raining, get your aircon on. And today, and also your knowledge of classic cars, your whole life has been just an incredible bunch of lovely, life experience, and your experience in your business is just second to none, really. And your passion comes over in it, as does mine, when I'm helping people with sort of their personal development. So absolute pleasure. So I've got a question for you. Apart from the fact that I think that we need just to tell our viewers that if they really need to speak to somebody that's got this thing sorted, in terms of Microsoft, in terms of cloud and sort of data center, the whole thing, is they really do need to speak to you, because I know that I've been listening now for a few months, and everything you say, you do. So you deliver.
Thank you.
It's a bish conversation, isn't it? It's like the fear of not having it all there, isn't it? I guess as well, and those solid roots that you've got, absolutely taking that.
Just come and talk. I mean, the thing is that we're not a pressured organisation. It's a case of, please just come and have a conversation about what you're doing, and we'll give you some advice, whether or not that's advice you take up from us or another organisation. It doesn't. This is about lifting the IT in the South a little bit, I think, is what we're trying to do.
And I think that, from the plans you've got, you're just about to shake that up a little bit. So watch this space for that. So I'm actually quite keen to know what your teachers said about you at school, and whether that's actually a reflection of who you are just now, Steve. And so what did they say about you? What did your school report say? I know mine said I talk too much, but which is what I do for my job now. So there you go.
Well, if I'd have known this, I'd have probably tried to hook this out of the loft and bring it and actually show it to you. What I might do is I might actually do that and put it up on a LinkedIn post.
It. What your teacher said.
I remember there's a couple, really, actually. I've got one that I probably had when I was at the end of my second year at primary school. And it basically said, does what he wants and talks too much. And then I suppose another one was probably the first report at high school. And what it says is, does what he wants and talks too much. Yeah, I've certainly talked a lot. Hopefully not garbage all the time. I've learned how to listen, you know. So I think that's definite. The other thing about the reports that's quite interesting is that they all had me down for being, you know, middle of the road. I'd get C's or B's in what I'm doing, but as I said at the beginning of this thing, just exams. I just looked at that. I just looked at that. I turned the first page like that, and it was almost good. I could almost feel the blood draining, you know, going white. And I suppose there's an awful lot of people. I feel really sad for people who, you know, have got great minds. I'm not counting myself in there at all, but you know, who then struggle not only at school but also at university and stuff like that with things where actually you can see the potential, you know, you know you've got the potential, but actually what happens is you couldn't write it on a page. I really feel for those type of people, because how many people do we miss, you know? You know, and also I think the other thing is that, you know, I didn't go to university at all. As you say, you went to university, you know, great for those people that want to go to university. It's a huge cost to go to university now. But, you know, if you go back to to get anywhere, you know, to be considered for anything in a management environment or anything like that, you needed a degree.
Yes.
You know, and at the end of the day, so actually, you know, having to climb the ladder through different ways to get to the points that I have in my career, I think have made me what I am. Okay?
Yes, they are. So all the conversation about does what you want is your entrepreneurial flair. You know, now they give kids all this exam support so that they give them sort of ways of doing that. So hopefully that will be a little bit better. But you are right. You know, some people do slip through the net, and certainly when I was working in FE, further education, I would just see somebody and know, just looking at them, and what they've been doing for about 2 weeks for me was actually dyslexia that had never been picked up. So, you know, and supporting those young people through that. You know, and talks a lot, that's just got you to where you are, you know, and there's some great pictures of you out there on your Twitter and your everything else, you know, of you in these conference areas and all that. You know, Steve, you've done amazingly well and are still doing well, and are now bringing this whole suite of fantastic services to companies in the South. So I just want to say thank you so much for talking to me today. You are an absolute gentleman. It's always lovely to talk to you. I only want to wish you very well with Vissensa, and look forward to doing some work with you coming up in the next few months.
Fabulous. Thanks for the time. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's been fun.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Steve, and I'll see you really soon.